You are listening to Journeys with Rebecca Radio with your host, Rebecca Jernigan, your tour guide into discoveries. Coming to you live simulcast from the heart of America to around the globe via the World Wide Web, terrestrial radio, satellite, and podcast. Let's journey together into the realms of the unknown to the known in search of enlightenment, knowledge, and truth. Good evening and welcome to Journeys, and tonight is with JayPee and my special guest here tonight on this very auspicious night of nights, the winter solstice of December 2012. I have the delightful and incredibly knowledgeable and very interesting stories as well. Sorry, I lost that one. Katie Gallanti, thank you very much for joining me right now. And I realize that you haven't had any time to prepare for this, but we'll get straight into it. So how are you doing?
All right. First of all, can you hear me?
Yes, you're perfect.
Yay! That's a miracle in itself. I'm not even in my own home at the moment, so it is kind of an interesting way of doing radio. All right, so I'm great. And how are you, JayPee?
Well, we're just in the middle of a marathon with the on Wolf Spirit Radio. I'm currently missing Santos Bonacci. I'd love to speak to him, but they're doing a parallel show just now that's been scheduled at this time, and all that stuff. But I'm sure they'll be wanting to listen to our show on the way back because we've got stuff going on. So where are you located? Can you reveal your location just now?
Yes, I can. I'm visiting some friends in Austin, so I'm in Texas.
Excellent. Sorry, I'm just trying to get into the Rev chat room here. Good evening, Revolution Radio. It's nice to be back. I've been hosting a couple of things on Revolution Radio the last couple of days because covering for Rebecca Jernigan, who's away in Egypt. Oh, yeah, I know they say you shouldn't be jealous, but I'd love to be there. It's been a great thing. Hello, everybody. Look, there you go. Everybody's saying hello. We got a couple of full houses as well. All Spirit Radio's a massive chat room and loads of people in there. JayPee's voice can be hypnotic. Bless. So here we are. We got a couple of nice, well-spoken English voices. It must be interesting. This will be an interesting thing. So tonight we have been going through the Galactic Center, and Katie, you're a Galactic. One of your websites has got Galactic in it, hasn't it?
Actually, it's Cosmic. One of my websites is Cosmic Essence. But,
Cosmic, yeah, that's right.
I am most definitely Galactic. I can handle Galactic. We can do Galactic stuff tonight.
We can do Galactic. Well, according to the Mayan calendar, I'm a Galactic White Wizard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you a number 13?
An 11.
Oh, sorry, 11. Okay.
11.
I discovered yesterday that I'm a number 13.
Are you?
And I don't know what that means. It's another white something.
Oh, I see. On the Mayan thing, right? Now, do you have a fan going on near you?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to try to switch it off?
Try pointing it away from the computer.
Yeah, it's not possible. It's actually in the room itself. So let me see if I can switch it off. Okay?
Yeah, that's. So during that time, I'll just cover by saying we've had quite a few shows in the last couple of years, and one of our shared interests is the topic called the externalization of ritual, and quite a few people have jumped onto that bandwagon over the last year or so, and many people have been looking at things like the Super Bowl thing with what's her name and the other Olympic thing with what's his name and how awful that was, and all these. I mean, I have to say, you guys in America, you can really put on a good show. You can put on a very, very convincing and excellent show. So, Katie, are you back? Have you dealt with your fan?
Can you still hear the fan?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, we'll have to live with it. We can imagine that you're there on the high mountain, and this is the wind that's blowing past.
Absolutely.
In Texas. Yeah. Well, anyway. So
it really was windy in Texas, by the way.
wow.
So, yeah. Carry on. So you were talking about the externalization of ritual, and that's actually a term that I've used a lot. In terms of what our friendly opposition dark people have been doing on our planet, right? And do you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about the galaxy? What do you want to talk about?
Right. Well, we've done the galaxy. Well, I mean, we that's a very recent thing, but I think what I'd like to explore is the attempts this year to try and divert people from this moment being the true, pure, beautiful moment that it is.
Yes.
By trying to inject satanic ritual into our everyday lives.
Yes.
Not only through these big events, but also through the whole, X Factor and so-and-so's Got Talent, that it's all about judgment and harsh criticism and breaking people down and dominating them. And, it's the whole, sort of domination matrix rather than the Dominion, network. So,
Yes.
With that in mind, where would you take that?
Well, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because, as I say, I'm not at home and I've been staying with friends and who have TV. I actually haven't had TV for 12 years, so I don't watch the X Factor. I don't watch any of those kind of things, right? Because I just don't have TV, and part of it is so that my brain is not polluted, and so on. But for the past week, I have actually been watching TV, and I've been watching some of these shows. There's a lot of kind of cooking shows at the moment. One is called Sweet Genius, I think, that is all about making desserts and stuff. And another one, I think, is called Chopped, and it's all about making other kinds of food. But the dynamic is very much the same. You go, you make your stuff, you try to make the best that you can, and then you stand in front of a character that judges you, and it feels very much like a life or death thing. It's very humiliating for the person that has to leave, and the person that stays kind of wins the prize and excels. And if you think about it, on a very superficial level, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just a competition, right? But actually, I feel that these kind of shows, when you were talking about the day-to-day Luciferianism, right? It's like a day-to-day, drip, 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 Luciferian survival of the fittest kind of philosophy.
Dog eat dog.
That is that dog eat dog, and all that matters is that you come first, and that you are better than other people, and it doesn't really matter what it takes for you to get there, right? Even if it means that other people get hurt or another person has to be sacrificed in the process, as long as you are manage to come to the top of the pyramid, then everything is okay. So definitely I would say that this is a form of introducing Luciferian principles within the population and getting people used to thinking in those terms. As we know, television, almost everything that's on television is a form of mind control anyway. So it shouldn't be a surprise that all of the TV programs that we're watching have that mind control element within them. Okay. Well, we're having interference all over the place. Nobody else.
Have you got to take that?
Yeah, just let me.
I'm sorry, I got a phone call I got to take. So during that time, so some of the shows that Katie and I have been doing in the past, we've been talking about what has been going on in the All right, so let's just break it down a bit. But basically, there's been a very long-term process of becoming, causing us to become attuned or used to certain aspects of satanic or Luciferian ritual, certain aspects of Luciferian thinking, through the use of games, and you know, games and competitions and you know, TV shows, and insidiously dripping, as you say, drip by drip, moving us towards a more Luciferian attitude, which is cynical. It's you know, what we call in England taking the mickey. It's belligerent. It's not. It's just the opposite of spiritual.
Yes, absolutely. Because, well, let's give an example to people, because I think that people have been so used to being exposed to this kind of philosophy. In some ways, it already is a part of our current setup as a collective, that it probably is a good reminder, a good thing to actually remind people about what is not a Luciferian philosophy, and that not Luciferian philosophy is not about competition and winning and coming first and dog eat dog and all of that kind of stuff, but it's actually staying in the heart chakra and being cooperative with other people, being helpful with other people. It's a everybody wins kind of philosophy. If I do something that benefits me, that also benefits you, that's even better. And it's about staying in the heart chakra, okay? Well, instead, if you look at the satanic Luciferian setup, and I'm putting them in both because there's a slight difference between the satanic and Luciferian philosophy, as far as I can understand. I understand it. But if you look at it, you can see that they are not operating out of the heart chakra at all. It's mostly second chakra, sexual energy, solar plexus, and third eye. So they use the third eye, but they use it in a distorted manner, very often actually coupled with the second chakra and sexual energy, right? That is why when they do rituals, they use a lot of sexual energy. Those two chakras are actually linked up together, right? So they, one feeds the other, etc., etc. So, our society has been going in this, or let's put it this way, there has been an agenda to have our society go in that direction for a very long time. So it's not just recently, in the past 4 or 5 years, that this has been going on. In some ways, it has been going on for as long as there have been plans to have education that is the same across the board, you know, standardized education, standardized testing, for as long as there has been television. The television itself, I think, was always intended as a tool for mind control right from the get-go. And a lot of Hollywood is that way as well. You can put the games and gaming into that category. These are all tools that the elite have been using one step at a time to control the minds of the population and enroll them into the agenda that they have for the collective, okay? These are just simply the tools that they use. But what has been happening during the past 4 to 5 years, a little bit more than that, but especially during the past 4 to 5 years, is that the phenomenon of what I've been calling the externalization of ritual has been occurring, where this is no longer as subtle as it used to be. Now it's really in your face, and the intensity of the satanic material has been escalating, so that now we're really watching music videos and movies and TV series, etc., that have, and, you know, music awards or Oscars or Super Bowls and etc., where almost every single one of these things becomes a satanic ritual that is presented to the population at large, and where the population at large is recruited into the ritual itself, and their energies are siphoned and used for actually for manifesting. That's what they use them for. Like, they're not just converting you to Satanism, but they're actually siphoning your energy and the energy of everybody that watches, and using it to empower the ritual purposes that whatever that ritual represents. Okay, So, and really it is, they are different. I was talking about this morning. I did another show this morning for 2 hours.
Wow.
So, I know. So if I skip a beat here and there, that's why I'm a tiny bit tired. But it was very similar topics. And I was talking about the fact that, you know, in some ways we have been in a big ritual since 9/11. And 9/11 was a ritual. And there's been several rituals since then, and it's kind of escalating and increasing and escalating and increasing. And this year, or at least let's start from last year. Last year we had the royal wedding, right? That was a ritual. It was on April 29th of 2011. April 29th is a satanic holiday. It's Welsh Folgers Night. And I think it's the last day of the 10 days of the satanic festivals or whatever. And then we had the Super Bowl at the beginning of this year. Then we had the Jubilee. And then after that, we had, I'm trying to think, the Aurora shooting. And then the Olympics. And now the most recent event, the Sandy Hook event, right?
Yep.
So that is all leading to, one could say that it's all leading to today, at least in terms of the, the solstice dates and the dates of the solstice of 2012. However, I am not 100%, this date has been trumpeted around quite a bit. But I'm not 100% sure that today is the day kind of thing. But what I am certain of is that there is an energetic process that is going on, and we're going to go to the galaxy now for a second. The galaxy, the solar system has cycles, the galaxy has cycles, the Earth has cycles. There's a cyclical nature of reality. And doorways open and doorways close. And at the moment, we're going through a period in which we can say that a doorway is opening that allows for us to make a shift in reality, okay? And if we want to talk about the kind of shift in reality, the easiest way to describe it is that we are facing a dimensional shift. So we're making a leap between one reality and another, and moving into a higher dimensional awareness. And I call it higher dimensional awareness because in the past, a lot of people interpreted this very literally, thinking that we're literally going to jump and go into another, in another physical universe or have a different kind of body, do you know what I mean, whatever. And I don't think that's the case at all. But what is happening is that we have been jumping into a different level of awareness. And when I say we have been, is because this doorway, it's not that it opens today and then it closes. It's been gradually opening, and it will be gradually closing on the other side. And you and I have talked about this on another show, that it's like a Gauss curve. It starts with a very minimal opening, and then it opens and opens and opens and opens, and then it reaches a peak, and then it starts to descend. Now, we are reaching the peak of this process. May it be today, or may it be in January, or in March, or next year, it doesn't really matter. We are reaching the peak of this process. And as we reach the peak of this process, this is when there is this full opportunity to make this shift in dimensional awareness. Okay? Now, the shift in dimensional awareness is actually neutral, in the sense that going up in awareness does not necessarily mean that we're going to a place that is more enlightened. It just means that we're going to a place where the energy is more heightened. And it is my understanding that if we were, for example, to call where we are right now the third dimension, and if we were to call this energetic place that we're leaping to the fourth dimension, that we have the possibility to leap both into fourth dimensional light and fourth dimensional dark. Okay? And so what is actually happening is that the friendly opposition, dark beings, are trying to do everything that is in their power to make us move into fourth dimensional dark. Well, instead as light people, we're trying to do everything that we can to move into fourth dimensional light. I think that no matter what we do, we move into this fourth dimensional level of awareness. We move into there anyway, because this is just part of the galactic cycle. It's not something that can actually be interrupted or stopped by anybody. But what can happen is that the process can be steered either towards the light or towards the dark. And if we steer it towards the light, we will have a certain kind of reality. And if we steer it towards the dark, then we will have a different kind of reality. Now, the dark beings want to steer it towards the dark, and they have a very, very clear and detailed agenda of what they're trying to achieve, right? We seem to be a little less organized, but we have a lot of goodwill and good energy behind us. But we may be a little less structured than the guys on the other side. So there you go.
Yes.
That's my view. Does it make sense?
Yes. Now, I'd like to add a couple more factors in.
Absolutely.
And number one is CERN.
Yep.
Number two is the galactic ripple, the galactic wave.
Yep.
And number three is the time wave zero.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go over the time wave zero for me. I've heard this before. I've listened to it before, but I'm tired. Remind me.
Okay, back in the days, there was a fellow called Terence McKenna.
Yeah.
And he took the I Ching, or the I Ching. He took the I Ching and turned it into a mathematical formula, which appeared to create a graph. And it's a very self-similar fractal graph, in that if you were to zoom into it, you will see the same pattern showing up. And then you map that onto time, and when this graph hits the line of zero, then the graph is actually of things being the same at the top, and right at the bottom, things being completely new or novel. They call it novelty. And so they calibrated it against the day that the atomic bomb dropped in Hiroshima, because it's supposed to be, this has never happened before. And when they calibrate it against that, it comes to today.
Yeah.
Or Sunday.
Interesting.
So that's data point one. Now, what that is saying is that something that is as world-changing as the atomic weapon will appear. Doesn't necessarily have to appear in public consciousness.
Yes.
But will appear.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's data point number one. Data point number two is CERN.
Yes.
Which has been chugging away, spinning its particles, smashing them together, but essentially creating a counter-rotation. And we know that creates a gravity wave, and that they're trying to create a gravity wave of 17 miles distance. That's gonna make some heck of a portal, in my humble. So that's data point number two, and then of course we've got the galactic wave, which was supposed to be that moment that we've just passed through. I don't know, or it's going to arrive. It was going to arrive at the sun on the 23rd. That's Sunday, and from that point, because it's sublight, this is a wave of sublight energies, particles, things. That they will immediately cause the sun to either go out or to evolve, or maybe both.
Okay.
Okay. So those are the data points that I wanted to throw into that little party. So.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now. Okay. CERN. From what I've actually, I do I get Okay. Every now and then, when I'm doing work, planetary work of various kinds, I find myself out of body and then I see stuff. Okay? I don't do this at will. It just happens when it needs to happen. And obviously, higher self or other beings are piloting this kind of thing. And the CERN thing, when I was doing some work on dismantling some of the energies that were coming out of the Olympics ritual, right? And I spent several weeks working on reversing that energy. When I was doing that planetary work, I was also shown CERN. And I was shown that this was, and in fact at the time I was shown a whole bunch of stuff. Not just CERN. They showed me the ritual itself. They showed me an energetic structure that was being created by the stadium of the Olympics. You know, that it had all those little lovely ones, all
yep.
triangles all around it, right? And actually that thing was creating a structure that was funneling right into the center of the earth. You know, clairvoyantly, and there was something to do with CERN that had to do with that. They were linked to some degree. Okay, so I would classify CERN as, or at least one aspect of CERN, because I'm sure that it has other purposes as well. But one of the purposes is definitely that of messing with the planetary grids, of messing with the Earth core, specifically with the Earth core. Because if you look at the planet has an energetic structure. It has several grids on the outside there's several energetic grids on the outside of the Earth. There's also electromagnetic fields that most people are familiar with. You can look those up on Google. They go out from the North Pole, magnetic North Pole, and then come back down and come back into the magnetic South Pole. But there's also structures on the inside of the Earth, and one of the things that is on the inside of the Earth is the Earth core structure that is linked to the core of the Sun. Energetically, it's linked to they're coupled. Okay, every planet I think has one of these cores that is coupled with the core of the Sun. So my feeling is that CERN is doing something that is disrupting the core of the Earth, or aligning it with something negative, so that it can bring in some certain kinds of energies. But if we understand, so basically CERN is dark energy tool to mess with the transition, or to pilot the transition that we're going through, so that it goes towards the dark. Okay? Now, the pulse that is coming out of the galaxy, the galactic wave, that is what you call the galactic wave, that is what I call the apex of this doorway opening and closing, right? Because this energy has been actually coming from the galactic core and transmitting from the galactic core to us, at the very least, since the 1960s, probably even before that, okay? But it has been doing it very gradual. It's like a door that opens very gradual, very gradual, very gradual, and then the process at some point peaks. The peak is that energy that you were talking about. That's the peak of the transmission. Now, whether that peak will result in something cataclysmic or weird or strange or whatever, we'll have to see. We can wait until Sunday and then we'll know. My sense is that it won't, because the whole thing has been happening in a very gradual way, and we are at this point ready to receive that peak, or at least we should be, from the observations that I have been having clairvoyantly of the state of the planet energetically and the state of the Sun energetically. It seems to me that the planet is in a very good position right now, and that the Sun is in a good position right now to receive that, to receive peak energy. Okay? Now, we have already been going through a lot of the intense and difficult things that are a result of this particular transmission. For example, a lot of people's lives have become very intense. A lot of people have been going through a lot of really intense relationships, intense challenges, like not finding work or not having money, and being pushed kind of to the limit of who they are, so that they have to really go deep inside and dig for deep inner resources to be able to overcome all of these things. Now, some of these experiences are karmic, and they are baggage, past life material that is emerging literally from the cellular makeup, so from the memory banks of the soul that are stored within the body, that are hit. When they're hit by this galactic light, it's as if it activates all of this stuff, and it activates the good stuff and it activates the difficult stuff. And if you imagine that every single person on the planet is kind of going through this, then you can see that this intensity is just something that we've all been experiencing. Then also, even from a physical point of view, if you can imagine that this increased light has been coming in, and very often at the moment, the way that it manifests on the physical plane is through, solar flares and is things that are coming to us from the sun. And a lot of people have been having physical symptoms from that kind of stuff, and even the Earth has been having physical symptoms, because now there's a lot of people that are linking these surges in solar energy that are a result of the surges in galactic energy. They are linking them with some of the earthquakes that have been happening, right? And various what could you call them? Like, I'm not going to say tsunami, because it's not that we have tsunami every day, but there's been rumbles within the actual physical body of the Earth as well. And my sense is that you and I have talked before about the story of the theory of the expanding Earth, right? I think
Yes.
that part of what is going on here is that the Earth is also expanding. And where does that expansion actually start from? It starts from the Earth core. It starts from the core of the Earth, and it moves out, right? So that is basically galactic energy coming in, it's triggering karma, it's triggering deep release within all of the bodies. So within the physical body, emotional body, mental body, in all of the levels of the DNA, big releases. And by now, we have been going through this process, the more intense version of this process, probably since 2008. A lot of people are kind of ready to receive the last kind of sledgehammer wave of intensity from the galaxy, right? So I'm an optimist on this kind of stuff. I don't see cataclysm and stuff. Not this time around. We went through it in Atlantis. We did cataclysm, right?
We can do without more.
We don't need to do cataclysm again. We've got cataclysm down. Right? This time we were supposed to uncataclysm and do it differently.
Yeah, to do it a little less catastrophically. You try saying that. A little less catastrophically, yes.
That's right. And in fact, I would say that this time around, our biggest challenge has not been so much to keep the Earth all in one place, but our biggest challenge this time around has been to really square off with this parasitic dark energy force that has been in charge of our Earth pretty much since the demise of Atlantis, and that has infiltrated now gradually into everything, and it's time for it to go. And so our biggest initiatory experience this time around I don't think it's so much about planetary stuff going bad, but it's about facing this particular energy and these particular people that represent it and carry it, and taking the Earth back to a place of high light. That is where we all come from, and it's where we all deserve to be.
Yes.
And it's time. It's time to take it back.
Absolutely, it's time. It is the time, and time you can keep saying the word time, and you always think of 2012. You think, oh, what is this? I've no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. We measure time because we've got tomorrow's and yesterday's.
Yes.
That's because the Earth is spinning. If the Earth wasn't spinning, or if it was spinning in a different way, and for instance, I've often wondered if the Earth rocked and spun.
Yes.
Spun? Spin? Oh God, it's gone. Spit. If the Earth was not just spinning but also rocking, then what would happen is the sun would rise in what you'd call morning, and then it would set again in a random place, and then it would rise again, and it would set again, and then it would rise again and spiral across the sky in a sort of indeterminate 5 or 6 day. Then it would set again, and then it would rise again, and it would set again, and the whole cycle would go along. And, then time would have no meaning. I'll see you tomorrow. When?
Yeah, absolutely.
Having a girlfriend would be really difficult.
It would be very difficult. You'd be in trouble all the time, JayPee.
Oh, well, yeah, that would, that goes without saying, of course.
I'm messing with you. Yeah. Well, but we live in time for a reason, right? Let's go there for a second.
Yeah, let's go to time.
Let's go to time. Time is, I think, a device through which we experience incarnation, right? Like if you're a soul and you're in the eternal soup of cosmic being, and in your infinite soulfulness, and there's no time, and everything is eternal, and you know everything, you're one with the mind of God. It's great, but you are not going to gather the experiential knowing that you need to deepen your knowledge, and to deepen your awareness, and to deepen your love, right? And so to be able to do that, my feeling, my understanding is that we choose an incarnational vehicle, and we choose then to be in a place in which there is limitation, in which there is parameters, in which there is a box and a container, and we can call some aspects of that box and that container time. Because when you are immersed in time, then you have sequential experiences. You can have the feeling of actually experiencing things and learning from them, and progression in your learning, etc., etc. If there wasn't time, it would be very difficult to be able to do that. Although I'm sure that there's other incarnations of which time functions differently from how it functions here. But I think that time is a tool of the incarnational worlds, and so that we can experience incarnation in this realm, right? So, in some ways, it's a useful tool. It's not. As souls, we don't need it. We can transcend it, and so on. But when we're in a body, it's a kind of useful.
So, it's a very useful thing to have, because it stops everything happening all at the same time. However, here we are. We're at that 0 point when everything is happening all at the same time. All that stacking of the things we've been talking about this evening. The elites have known about it, and I tell you that they are trying their best. But really, the way I see it, it's like they've got their finger in the dike, and the water's just about to spill over the top of the dam. They're just trying to contain something that is absolutely uncontainable. They're doing the King Canute, standing in the sea, kind of affair, because this thing's bigger than planets. This thing's bigger than this is as big as galaxies. This is as big as the energy burst as you're gonna get.
Absolutely.
And it's enough energy to cause a star to evolve to its next level.
It is.
I can't remember who it was talking the other day and made a very sensible remark that stars evolve in the same way as when you heat a piece of metal. First of all, it's hot. You get hot iron, and then it goes red hot. It glows red. You get a red giant, and then it glows yellow hot, and that's where our sun is at the moment. And then it goes white hot, and then it goes blue white, and then it goes blue. Those are the different kind of stars you get, and it's very natural. It's just getting hotter. Okay, so it's going up a level of quantum energy. And it's like the wave comes along, and everything that has a need for energy gets it's like we're getting a new battery. Not just a recharge of the battery, but a new battery, the latest technology that's got all the good stuff in it.
Yes.
Along with the new operating system. Go ahead.
But in some ways, the way in which this works, do you remember when you were doing physics in school, the atom that has the nucleus and it has the electrons on the outside and all the rest of it, right? So you have the nucleus in the middle, and then you have the electrons on the outside that are, at least from one point of view. From another point of view, it's just a big cloud of energy. But if you're going to do it into the particle way, the electrons, they have like a layer around the nucleus, and then they keep on stacking these layers. And then you have a few electrons on the outside that are the spare ones, right?
So they're like a bunch of Russian dolls, almost.
They are. But they're like circuits, like one circuit and then another circuit and another circuit, and each one gets filled with a maximum number of electrons, and then it spills onto the next layer, right?
That's right.
Now, at the atomic level, when you hit something like that with energy, there's an excitation, and the electrons, they bounce and they go to the next ring outwards. Okay? Now, if there's no further energy, then eventually they will collapse back to where they were before. They'll release photons, right? But let's say that the energy continued, they would stay in the further out ring. They would just jump from the inner ring to the next ring out. Okay? Orbit, or whatever you want to call it.
We call them quanta, don't we?
You could call them all sorts of things. The quanta is actually the energy packages that are given to make that leap happen. Okay?
But when people talk about quantum leaps, that's the leap from one shell to the other.
Yes, it is. And it's because the actual energy package is called a quantum. Okay? Like the energy package that you need to make that leap is quantified, and that's where that name comes from.
Yeah.
So anyway, where was I going with this? The energy that is coming in, what it's doing, it's creating that kind of a leap. But the leap, instead of it being from an orbit to another orbit, it's from one dimensional layer to the next. So the energy is coming in and it's pushing everything up one level. Okay? And, but the thing that I've said this before at the beginning, but I'm repeating it, that the thing that we have to, I mean, in some ways this is old stuff, because we've already done a lot of the work that we were supposed to do, and I think we've done very well with it. But the challenge that presented itself for this leap was not so much if the leap was going to happen or not. There's no stopping the leap. The leap is going to happen no matter what, because, as you say, the energy is huge. It's coming from Galactic.
The wave is coming.
The wave is coming, and, it's going to hit you. And it's going to hit the sun, it's going to hit the earth, it's going to do all of its thing. So the challenge was not, is this going to happen or not? The challenge is, in which direction is it going to go? Because what the dark elite have been doing is not so much trying to block the wave. What they've been trying to do is to divert the wave. So the wave is coming in, and they know that it's coming in. They haven't so much been trying to stop it from doing whatever it's doing, but they've been trying to use it so that when we leap, we don't leap where we would naturally leap, that is towards a higher consciousness awareness of light service to others, but they're going to try to make us leap to a dark world where it's higher dimensional dark. Do you understand? And people sometimes get confused about this. They're like, no, dark is lower dimensional. You cannot have a higher dimensional dark. Well, I've got news for you. They are very, very conscious levels of being that are extremely dark. And actually, they're kind of scary. And, those are, they are fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional beings that hold dark polarity. And, they're highly conscious, darkly oriented beings. And so it is very possible to create a leap and to create a shift that, however, goes towards a darker world, a more conscious world, but a darker world. And so let's go back to the shows. What does a darker world look like? Well, a darker world, a more conscious but darker world, looks like somewhere where society is structured around dark initiations, where there truly is a pyramid, but it's an externalized pyramid. At the moment, we know that they do the pyramid thing in their own secret societies and stuff, but imagine a society in which that is happening. You would have an external structure of quote-unquote dark priests that would hold all of the power, and everybody would be in constant competition towards trying to achieve these positions of power and prestige in this structure. Some of this stuff is already happening, but it would be happening at a societal level. And then there would be all of the people that that don't qualify in the survival of the fittest. They would be either used as labor or eliminated, right? And so you would have a very high risk world where the philosophy is about you're either exceptional or you perish, and the exceptional get rewarded, and the ones that are not get thrown under the bus.
Hunger Games.
You know what I mean? And yes, and everything in this society is structured in this way that is based on competition, and then I can bet you money that the people at the top of this pyramid would not be the people that have the most money, but they would be the people that have the highest skill in the dark arts, right? So
Yeah.
the truly dark magicians and the dark clairvoyants and so on that have managed to rise to the pinnacle of their own power, right? Because their psychic ability and psychic power are also things that they're neutral. You can use them for good or ill. You can have those skills and be evil. Do you know what I mean? It's very, very possible. And also, let's not forget that they are entities and beings that are very much behind all of this, and that would probably be occupying a lot of these people and empowering whatever it is that they're doing. So I know this is a horrible thing to think about, right? But I'm just giving you a picture of what a higher dimensional dark world could look like, right? And so my sense is not so much that the dark elite has been trying to put the finger in the dam, but what they've been doing is that they're seeing the water that is going to inevitably spill, and they're like, okay, well, let's focus it all in this direction so that we can use it to create the next level of our agenda, of our project, and create this leap and allow it to happen, but so that it goes towards the thing that they're trying to create. Does that make sense?
Well, I keep thinking, when we're talking about the Dark Cabal's plans and the fact that they use magic and they use whatever magic they can get. And some of the magic we've got from ETs, it's real stuff.
Yes.
And I've spoken at length on various other shows with William Stillings, who has direct experience of time travel and dimensional travel and just what do they call it? Weird science and freaking magic.
Yeah.
That side of what he calls the industry, and
Right.
yes, the industry, and so the industry have had all kinds of technologies, and being what they are, and being they do what they do because they can.
Yes.
They've been messing about with stuff, and they've been moving things backwards and forwards in time, and all of this stuff. So the the point where I'm getting to is that one of the testimonies is Bill Wood. Now everybody's been trying to discredit him, and they've trying to get him in jail and all these things. But you've got to remember what he originally said, and it was a very, very interesting point. Can you remember he was talking about when he was looking at the results of the Yellow Book, which is this machine they call the chronovisor, which resembles it's like a miniature version of the machine in Contact.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what he was saying was that they would use these devices. You could have two. If you had two, you could get. If you had one, you could get a picture, and if you had two, you could get picture and sound. Mm-hmm. You just be chronovising on a different frequency band. Right. But what they would then do is, they would send people backwards and forwards in time, put this document here, put that document here, do this, do that. They didn't know what they were doing, he was saying, most of the time I was usually just picking up a piece of paper. But pieces of paper can be very important. And so this is
the technology. Who gave the technology? Like these two devices that you're talking about, who gave them?
Where did the Yellow Book come from? I'm not entirely sure. It was mentioned in two Project Camelot expo days. One with Dan Burish, who's a little bit dodgy, but I think he's dropped a few nuggets, and I think that's true. The chronovisor. And then we have Bill Wood. He was sent in to analyze the results. He never saw the chronovisor working. He was shown it. It was dismantled. It was in a big box filled with straw and these things. Yes. It's just like it was in Stargate. It's just in this big kind of packing case. And he was given all the data on it because what they wanted to do was to ensure that the timeline 2, they called it, where everything was a dark agenda and this dark light that you're talking about. Where that occurs. But here's their philosophical problem, and you're going to love this, Katie, because they've really scuffled themselves. Okay, what happened was that, and this is what Bill discovered. This is greetings and welcome back to Journeys tonight with JayPee in the driving seat and in the passenger seat, the very delightful Katie Gallanti. Hello.
Hi.
Nice cup of tea.
Nice cup of tea.
Nice cup of tea. You see, we're both from. We spent a lot of time in London, and when you're in London, it's the thing to do is to have a cup of tea together. It's not. I mean, although tea is an incredibly delightful liquid, it's not the reason. Well, it's just the excuse, really. Have a cup of tea and you have the conversation. The tea is the excuse. The conversation is. Yes. But tea itself is a very pleasant thing to do. So I've got my regular Scottish blend, we call it, because we have very soft water here. So in fact, it makes the best tea from a well. We'll talk about when you come over. But to go back to the kind of cliffhanger that I left. So. He looked at all the chronovisor reports, and basically what they were getting is whenever they were looking at the negative, let's call it the negative timeline or timeline 2, and the positive timeline, and like the two have these two qualities. The positive timeline is where we all are able to exercise free will.
Yes.
Where we're all able to exercise our sovereignty, and we're in dominion. And timeline 2 is the timeline, to use Frank Jordan's very easy, is the perspective of domination. And that's the dog eat dog, and that's really, I think, what you're talking about is this Luciferian agenda timeline that we're trying to be derailed onto. But and so what they came to him with was every time we tried to do something, it seems that and the other thing that the chronovisor did was it would flip rapidly between these two images, and they had to have computer analysis. And whenever they brought it up to this time, today, this hour, the timelines would be flipping backwards and forwards so fast that they needed high-powered computer technology to pull the two things apart and see what was going on.
Yes.
And what they were noticing was that the timeline 2 was dissolving into timeline 1.
Timeline 2 being evil timeline.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Yeah, and I agree. I mean, my take for quite a while, I mean, obviously we still talk about the dark agenda because I don't think it's wise for us to ever really try to relax on that, because I think that there's been a lot of effort to make us relax on that. People that have come out and said all sorts of things that make us think that everything is fine and just sit down, have a cup of tea, have 3 cups of tea. Don't worry about this whole planetary thing. It's all resolved. You know what I mean? There's been a lot of that because my sense is that it really is like these two machines seem to have been describing, that it's actually really close and the reality is constantly changing. So that, one day, one timeline maybe, if we want to call them timelines, I call them realities, but if the one paradigm, one reality is more dominant than the other, but then we may do something that totally shifts and one timeline becomes more stable. But then 3 weeks later, the New World Order people may do something really negative that then pulls the energy back into a negative timeline. So the flip that is happening has continued to happen. You can't at some point say, oh, well, it's resolved. It's not resolved until it's resolved, in the sense that my sense about this time, regardless whether it be today or not, it doesn't matter to me if it's today or not. If it's today, great. And if it's another day, it's fine. Because even those kind of dates can shift around. In fact, you're aware of Preston Nichols, right? The Mr. Montauk, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying that in his own observations of the timeline, that everything had been moved forward, that we had done something that had moved the whole thing forward a whole bunch, right? And then I heard another person, let me remember who it was, because at the moment I'm thinking, but I can't remember the name. But there was somebody else. Oh yes, that's right. It was an elite insider that I have been following through, it's like a chatter that I have been following. And this person was also saying that things had been moved forward. So basically there's people on either side of the fence that are saying that, the times may have shifted, and the times may have shifted for various reasons, because this is an interactive process. This is not just something set in stone and that we trundle along with. We're creating it as we're going along. So depending on what we're doing, we enforce one timeline over another. And depending on what they're doing, they can enforce one timeline upon another. If you look at what they have been doing, like, the Olympics ritual and even the recent shooting, etc., these are all attempts to bring in highly charged, dark energy in creating events that are aimed at shifting that balance towards where they want it to go, right? Yeah. So I'm kind of repeating the same thing that I was saying before, but basically what I'm saying is, yes, I can totally see how there would be that flip between the timelines, but I think also that is a flip that is going to continue until one reality becomes permanent and takes over from all of the other ones.
That's right.
That we don't actually know when that is going to be. We have speculation and predictions and stuff that tell us that is going to be today. Intuitively, my intuition says it's not today. But that's okay. Do you know what I mean? Just because I don't see that the process is complete yet. But I think that we are coming to the end of that process no matter what. And at some point we will stabilize into another. Things will stabilize somehow. Our world will feel a little less crazy, a little less manic, and then we will have to see where we have landed. But my clairvoyant, psychic, this is coming just from me, from what I have seen, not from things that I have read or from videos or whatever, but from what I have seen in my third eye through the ongoing planetary energy work that I have been doing I have been doing this kind of work for about 15 years, but for the past 6 months in particular, I've been doing a lot of really detailed energy work at the planetary level. And every time I go in, it's literally like entering into a zone, like you open a door and I just start seeing everything. And every time I go in now, I'm being shown more and more positive things. So, for example, some of the grids that were switched off during the fall of Atlantis that allowed for the dark energy to really kind of set its roots nicely into our reality. It was already here, but it really settled after that. They now switched back on. A lot of dark pockets of energy that were around the Earth core, they're no longer there. A lot of the beings that were brought in through various rituals, we got rid of them. They're not here anymore, etc., etc. I have seen the Earth energy field syncing with the Sun energy field, and the two look really good together, right? A lot of the blockages that were present, that were caused by the dark faction pulling in all sorts of nasty juice, they're gone. And for example, just to give you an example of some of the recent shifts, just prior to the Olympics, there was a film of dark energy that went all around the Earth's atmosphere. It was, I don't know if it was inside the atmosphere or around it or above it, doesn't really matter, but this film was as big as the whole Earth, and it went all the way around, and it was energetic, and it was like a dark astral ring, right? And this had been brought in by various rituals and so on. And then I participated and also witnessed some work done on the inner planes, and this dark ring just went away, so it's no longer there anymore. So my sense is that things are progressing, and they're progressing really well. And at the same time, I think that we need to just keep on going, do our work, and I don't think that we should sit down and sip pina coladas just yet in Acapulco.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We still need to work it a little.
Yeah, a vodka and Coke in the local would be good enough.
Vodka and Coke is nice.
So anyway,
vodka and Coke in 20
You haven't, say again?
I haven't had a vodka and Coke in like 20 years, I think.
It's about 20 days for me. But anyway, it's an occasional tipple that I like, I think it's harmless, but anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So we haven't finished the Bill Wood story, right? Okay. Because it gets better. It gets better. So we got timeline 1 and timeline 2, right? The light one and the dark one. And in the light one, everybody has free will. And in the dark one, nobody has free will.
Right.
Okay, so here's the kicker. Are you going to love this? What he discovered was that every time they tried to do something to push people on the second timeline,
right,
they were exercising their free will, which caused the likelihood of the first timeline where people exercise free will, because the universe is equanimous. If one person's got free will, then everybody's got free will.
Yes, I understand.
And so what's happening is that every time...
Timeline.
I'm sorry?
So they were sabotaging their own timeline.
That's right. They were scuppering themselves. They were digging the hole and not realizing that they're in a boat. Yeah,
good. I like the story.
Yeah, and this is like the whole thing about, sowing the seeds of your own destruction in the building of things. So So what he discovered was that they were in an absolutely impossible situation. There's no way that they can implement their agenda because every time they tried to mess about with it, it would make it more likely that it wasn't happening.
Yes, yes. Okay, and now I'm going to ask you a question.
Ask away.
Okay, my question is, are you 100% certain that this information is reliable?
This was the story that Bill gave. But
yeah, I understand. But
what I'm saying is that this is the story that he gave, and it hasn't been heard since.
Yes.
And usually if you only hear a story once, then it's usually the right one, and nobody's messed about with it.
Yeah. The only reason which I say this is that I think things are a little bit more complex. I mean, it may be that was what they were seeing, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. But it is possible for these guys to create their own timeline. It is. It's happened before, and in fact, we have on this. We are, from what I believe, on at least round 2 or 3 of this process, and in the past, this process didn't go so well. So I'm not saying, because the story as you're telling it to me, right? It basically, in some ways, is saying that there's no way that we can lose this because no matter how you slice it, it turns out in our favor. I'm not sure that I agree with that, right? Because I think that actually this has been and is a fairly high stakes little game that we've been playing here, and I think that this quote-unquote friendly opposition is not to be underestimated. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a lot of information out there at the moment, and I'm thinking of that guy Drake, do you know what I mean, and various other people that put out information that basically kind of says, don't worry about it, everything is going to be fine, it's all taken care of, blah, blah. And one of the effects that has on people is that it kind of then takes the wind out of their sails, because they think that they don't really have to work it that hard, right? And I'm not saying that Bill doesn't have the correct information. This is probably exactly what he saw, do you know what I mean, and exactly what he experienced. But if I run it via my own understanding of this process, there is a part of me that says, okay, not that I'm not buying it, but I'm not thinking that it's quite as simple. Okay. Well. But what I will tell you is, regardless, is that I think that we're doing really well, and that that there definitely is a higher reality that I think is becoming more stable, and that if we continue to do things right, that we will manage to stabilize and land into the right zone, right? Mm-hmm. That is where we want to land in. Now, I'm going to interview you for a second. Can I do that? I'm going to turn the tables on you.
Okay. The table has been turned.
Turning the table. And this is a silly question. It's just to drive a point home, okay? Mm-hmm. To that really, what do we need to go to this other level? What do we need to do to get to this other level? Where we come to an Earth that is stable in the light.
Well, in order to do that, we have to either neutralize or separate ourselves from, or absorb in a way a force that is forcing itself upon us.
Yep.
So,
yes.
If I have a splinter in my hand will automatically produce a layer of fat that will surround the splinter and cause it not to cause me irritation anymore.
That's right. So you have to neutralize it and get rid of it. And then in terms of the actual spiritual development that we are, because let's take it out even further, okay? And if we take it out of the, Earth and the New World Order and the bad guys and the good guys and all of that kind of stuff, and if you take it out one level even further, and you start looking at everything that we are experiencing as like a playground for growth, okay?
Mm-hmm.
As a place where we get to experience certain things so that we can grow and evolve. Because every soul that is on this planet is eternal. We're here right now, but you can die, and that's it. You leave this reality. This is just a story in some ways, all of it, right? There is one level. We have to be part of this story for it to make sense and for it to be important and for us to invest energy into it. But there's always multiple layers to every truth. And if you go to the most external layer of this truth, you will we can understand that all of this is kind of a story, and it's a story that we're participating in so that we can extract the most evolutionary juice from the process and take our own soul, both individually and collectively as people, and collectively as a group soul humanity, right, to another level. And so from that point of view, we are literally here to face the adversary, right? An adversary that is kind of here almost by agreement. We're here to face the adversary so that we can evolve, not only learn the skills of how to get rid of this adversary, but also so that we can evolve both individually and collectively towards a higher level of being, and a higher level of being that in some ways requires for us to go through this clash with a very potent and very cutting and difficult energy that is dangerous. I mean, it's a high stakes game, right? So that we can come to this other level. And if you look at it from the point of view of the raw material and the explanations that they have about the harvest and so on, this is a time of graduation. It's a time of spiritual graduation. And the most important aspect of this graduation is exactly like you were saying about with Bill Wood about the orientation of the will. So, but it's not so much about the orientation of the will towards free will and no free will, but it is the whole of this plane is a free will zone, and the whole of this plane, in some ways, all of this world that we inhabit is characterized by the fact that we do indeed have free will in a situation in which, however, we do not have all of the information. Like, there is a lot that has been occulted because some people are hiding it from us, but also occulted because we ourselves do not understand who we are clearly. We ourselves do not have full awareness of our own multidimensionality. We ourselves are not aware of who we are at the soul level. We ourselves do not have awareness of every past life or every lifetime that we have had. And so we're kind of navigating blind. So we are in a challenged situation in which we're navigating kind of blind, and we have the free will to choose whatever we want to. Now, according to the teachings in the Law of One teachings of the raw material, this is the challenge. It's like, okay, so if we are put into a situation with an adversary and we have this this free will, what are you going to do with it? Where are you going to align it? Are you going to align it towards service to self, or you're going to align it towards service to others? If it's aligned towards service to others, you're dedicated to the collective, you're dedicated to love, you're dedicated to cooperation, you're dedicated to, healing, you're dedicated towards growing and building things, you're dedicated towards expansion, growth, and deepening of knowledge and knowing. If you are instead orientating your will towards service to self, then basically you're aligning yourself with things that will aggrandize your own power. And these things that aggrandize your own power can be small things like, I'm just going to use a silly example. I'm going to do a radio show and everybody's going to know about me, okay? Like you can do too.
Sorry.
You couldn't resist, huh?
I couldn't resist. Yeah, as if. I'm going to do a radio show and 3 people are going to listen for the next 24 weeks.
Like, non-stop for the whole 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's right.
They not take any breaks.
and they send me weird emails. No, yeah, because, the whole thing about thinking about getting your message out, it's in a way it's not easy, and in a way it's easy, but it depends where your message is coming from. Can you not hear me?
You were going in and out. I can hear you now.
Oh, was I going in and out? Hang on, let me just do that. Has that stopped it doing that?
Yes.
That's good.
Because we don't a wonky computer.
We don't want it to go in and out. No. So we're looking at how you put things across, but you're talking about service to self as opposed to service to others. Which service to others is like doing a radio show every week and actually not minding that nobody's listening, because you know that you're building up an archive, and it's like writing your book. It
is, and also Source is in charge, and whoever needs to listen will listen.
Absolutely.
And it's not about your personality or your ego rewards or any of that kind of stuff, right? One can do exactly the same action, and that action can be service to self or service to others. It's not really about the action. It's not really about what one does. I mean, sometimes it is about what one does. Of course, if you kill somebody, that is fairly clear.
Yeah, I mean, let's take violence out of the thing. Let's imagine a world where we don't have to perform violence because there won't be any need or greed or fear or jealousy. Everybody's got enough for what they need, and yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
That it's basically, it is ultimately the test that we're undergoing from a spiritual perspective, and I'm not talking about just what's going on in the world and New World Order, blah, 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 but from a spiritual perspective, we are being called, and have been for the past 10, 15 years or so, to align our will in the right direction. And a lot of what the quote-unquote New World Order is doing is that it is trying to hijack the collective will and take it where they want it to go. And some of that happens through manipulation. So you could say that people are still not conscious enough to have free will when they're doing that. Okay, but there are also people that align their will with the dark and they're very conscious of doing it. They want the goodies, they want the rewards, they want the perks, and so on.
Yeah.
And it can start with very small things, the slippery slope.
The slippery slope. Just stop this pain.
That's right. Yeah. True. It's true. All right. So, what else should we talk about?
Wow. Where do we go from here? I just have to say, Katie, you're booming through. It's brilliant.
Am I really?
Because I know, because I know your body feels tired, and actually so does mine. But there's a great soul moment here, and you're getting some. You're getting to some good nuggets there. Some good nuggets.
Good. I'm on my 4th hour of radio today, so.
Yeah. I think I'm on my 6th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really been on the fly as well. We've all been doing this very spontaneously.
We have.
And it's great because, well, really what it is you've done a lot of study over the years in varying fields, including quantum physics, including the whole real world science. So you're not like a flaky kind of pseudo-scientist who says, yes, it's all energy. You're actually very, very conscious of it. And then you've also gone into the world of and let's call it the psychic and spirit world, where you have to deal with things like psychic possessions and walk-ins and all those little creepy things. So you being like a kind of a bit like
specialize in creepy things.
a bit like a surgeon in some ways, and also like a programming debugger.
That's right. Yep.
Troubleshooter, because these things they come out of your mind and they infect your mind. That's what we call a meme.
Yes.
And so you've come through all of these things, and you have psychic perception. So you can actually check yourself what against what you've been learning.
Yes.
So when
in fact, I would say that my the perception that I trust the most is that perception. I have a very strong connection with my team on the other side, right? High dimensional beings of light, and that connection has been solid for me for over a decade, and I trust the information that I get and that I see more than anything that I read, because it hasn't let me down yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of tested itself out in my own life, so I know to trust that more than my brain in some ways, right? That doesn't mean I don't think about it and take it apart myself, but the information often comes through, and that I see clairvoyantly, especially the stuff that I see clairvoyantly. I do clairvoyant work almost every single day with my clients, right? And the planetary work is just another aspect of that. But I have learned to really trust it because it works, right? So.
That's right. That's right. I mean, you've actually been doing it, practicing it, and doing all of the, just actually working it through your being.
That's right. And now I'm writing.
And now it's all coming out. It's like you've kind of filled up the capacitor, and it's time to discharge it in the right order.
Many hundreds of pages will come.
That's fantastic. I mean, you could probably take your radio interviews and forge a couple of chapters out of those.
Yes,
get somebody, pay somebody to type it up and.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
I know.
If there's anyone out there that wants to transcribe my shows, let me know.
That's Katie Gallanti at cosmicessence.com.
I don't have time to do it myself.
No, of course you don't. Because you're now in broadcast mode.
That's right.
Yeah. I did a show last year that somebody's transcribed for me. I haven't actually gotten around to editing it yet, but it's going to become a little book on the seven rays, a little introduction to the seven rays.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. So we've got a half hour. I don't know if there's anybody got any questions in the chat room as to what we've been going on about. We've gone from the externalization of satanic ritual all the way back to Hunab Crew. Oh yeah, somebody was talking about the ripple or the wave, and I'd like to illustrate this. If you were looking at a pond from a couple of feet up, and you dropped one stone in the pond, you would see a ripple passing out from the center of the pond, or wherever the stone fell, and you see ripples emanate from that point. Well, the galaxy does the same thing. There is a black hole, which we call the dark rift, right in the middle of the galaxy, and it's what the Mayans called Hunab Ku. Now, there's a gap between the number of light years. Here's some interesting numbers. Okay, the number of light years between here and the center of the galaxy is 26,000 light years, which is an interesting cycle, isn't it? Because we hear about this 26,000 year cycle. then we're also 8 minutes from the sun, and that they say that there is eight light minutes from the sun. And so there's also an 8-minute cycle, where, there's an ion cycle between the sun and the earth. And so now we're going back to the ripple in the pond, and we see the ripple in the pond from the above, and we see it as a ripple going out. Now, if you then bring your focus down to the surface of the pond, towards the edge of the pond, and we look back at that place where the ripple fell, what we'll see is an ever-expanding line that stretches out either side of us. And this is apparently what is going to be coming towards us. It's traveling at sublight speed, but we still can't see it, because it's right at the same place where the sun is just now. So the sun is going to get it first, and that's supposed to happen on the 23rd. That's Sunday. Now, again, we may not see it, feel it, or experience it in any way. But I believe that is the same thing as the time wave zero. Mm-hmm. Because it's a point where everything drops to zero. And when everything drops to zero, that's when things stop and then start again. So this is the wave that we've been talking about. So, Katie, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you described it perfect.
There you go. Oh, what a lovely, sweet question. Is there birthdays in... Hang on, I'll use a different voice for that. Hang on. Because it's like a little... Yeah. Here we go.
Yes. Is there birthdays in higher dimensions?
All right. Who's going to answer this one?
Is there birthdays in higher dimensions? I mean, okay. I think that it's actually a valid question. What sort of cycles do you have in higher dimensions?
Well, there's lots of different kinds of higher dimensions. So I think the answer is if the dimension that one is referring to still has time in it, yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. And if the dimension does not have time in it, then no.
Time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Birthday is a time thing, right?
Yeah.
The birthday is a cyclical marker in time. There's no time, no birthday. And there's some dimensions that even if they're higher than us, they still have time. And then there's some that if you go even higher, you go into the cosmic planes, there's no time. And therefore, no birthdays.
Mm-hmm. No birthdays in the higher dimension.
There's no physical bodies in those kind of dimensions either, so...
Oh, I'm very sad. I have no birthday when I'm in a higher dimension, when I'm in the 5th dimension.
Well, one has to lose something to gain something.
I love my pitch shifter.
It's really good.
It's great, because you can... let me just take it to a sort of normal setting. Okay, so this is like a normal, and if I turn it to the right, it goes up, and if it turns it to the left, it goes down, you see? Okay, so but it's great because you can fiddle about a bit and then make you sound like an Australian.
No, you sound like
Gollum. I sound like what?
Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
I've got to have precious.
There you go.
This is how they do it in the films. They have these machines. It's a very simple thing. And in order to do Darth Vader, we have to... the Force is strong with this one, all that business. Use the Force, Luke. That's another one. Anyway, I just love... I've been playing with this thing all night.
We like to announce that the energy from the cosmic center, the center of the galaxy, Unab 2, is now here.
And what time did it arrive?
It arrived about 2.5 hours ago. It's been waiting at the station. You should have been there and picked it up from platform 3.
That's excellent, JayPee.
Poor Katie, she's been completely thrown into this. It's like it grabbed her about 2 minutes before the show. Didn't even have a pre-show. We just hit the ground running, and that's what I love about you. You're so brilliant. You'll gladly hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
So where were we? Time, yeah. We got some things in the thing there. All right. How exactly? Oh, now that stirred them up. No birthdays. Right. So now they're pissed. All right. So how exactly would you describe a dimension with no time?
Okay. This is easy. I've been there.
All right.
So I can describe, right? I'm going to plug something while I'm doing this. That is the training method that I went through in the 90s, right? And I trained in this meditation, higher consciousness thing called The Awakening the Light Bodies series by Sanea Roman and Dwayne Packer. And basically it's like a 1 year long big chakra thing where you just keep on working with the chakras and working with your energy until at a certain point, literally, you pop and you end up going places, right? Mm. And at a certain point, I was doing this meditation technique 3 to 4 hours a day, every single day. And it's cumulative. Like the more you do it, the more it boosts the rocket kind of thing. And at a certain point, I ended up literally popping through this layer of realities where I was right at the top of this stack of Katies, like me, Katie. There was one on the bed that was meditating. I could see her really clear. And then there was another one on another level of reality. And then there was another one on another level of reality. And I just kept on going until I ended up in this zone that was like, the only way that I could describe it, it was like a river of light. And it had currents in it. It wasn't just it was like a expanded river of light with swirls in it and currents and so on. And my non-physical self was on this, and I was just floating in it. And it just felt as if I had an extremely expanded consciousness. I had extreme awareness, but it was an awareness without any words. And it felt that I was just blended with this whole thing. And at the same time, I did have an individuality of some kind, but it was not the same as, I was not as individuated as I am here. It was like kind of knowing that you're a droplet of the ocean, but actually feeling more like the ocean than like the drop, right? And it was a state of being, of just simple being and floating to some degree and transporting into this current. And I believe that was, a level of reality that I've since kind of been calling the cosmic reality. That is where we do not have bodies, we do not have cities, we do not have the structures that we create on the physical plane, but you're just pure being and pure awareness. And so that is actually what the really high dimensions of light look like. Okay? Well, instead, there are other dimensions that are beyond this one, like 2 or 3 dimensions up here, that where beings still have bodies, they still live lives, they still, have experiences, they still do all of that kind of stuff. But in the really, really high levels, in the really, really high bands, you don't have you don't have experiences in the same way. It's more of a state of awareness. Does that cover it?
State of being.
State of being.
Yes.
Floating being.
Being, just being.
Yeah.
Excellent.
But
Yeah.
it's an experience even in that, but it's like you're breathing it rather than acting it out.
Yeah. Well, it's, it's like, as you were saying that, because I was talking with Andrew Bartzis the other day about this being that was, it was a liquid being.
Yes.
And if you had a bucket of this being, and then you put a cup in and drew a cup's worth away from that.
Right.
I asked him, is that two beings or is that still one being? And he said, that's two beings. And there's a trauma that happens when you do that.
Okay.
So it's like, that's what happens to us when we're separated from the whole, this timelessness. So that's what, when we are dropped into time, we are taken out in a cup.
Yes, that is true. And in fact, it's truer than you know.
It's worse than you think.
It's worse than you think, it is. Because not only that is the experience of becoming incarnated. Most souls don't like it all that much. I mean, there's literally, when they talk about the birth trauma, right? There's truth to that. There's a trauma that is not just about having a bad birth, but it's literally the transition from being spirit to being incarnate is not always pleasant, right, for the spirit doing that. But in my healing work and regression work, I still do it, but I used to do a lot of past life regression work. And I had a few people that I worked with consistently over a period of years. And we went way back, basically tracing traumas that were creating problems in their lives today, right? One of these people had a long history of lives that were dark and where bad things had happened and in which and that were manifesting in her life this time around as having lots of psychic attack and lots of weird energy issues and so on. So we had to go and like dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig to find the root causes of this, because my usual techniques for clearing dark energies, entities, all that kind of stuff that were not working, right, with her. It was like not deep enough. And eventually we got to the point where we regressed, by regression I mean hypnotic type regression, right? And we regressed right back to her individuation as a soul in terms of when her soul separated from source itself, and that her soul didn't like that. Her soul had a trauma about it, about literally separating from source and becoming an individuated soul. We don't really think about that, but some souls do not enjoy that experience. Right?
What a fascinating story. And that is really, getting over yourself.
It is.
Because self is the thing that is created when you are traumatized to protect yourself, as like a I suppose you could vision it as like a membrane.
Yeah.
That you put over yourself in order to heal the fact that, like surface tension.
Yes, that's true. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So, yes, individuation. So, some people feel that, and presumably that we all had that to an
Yes, I
extent.
can imagine so. Yes. And maybe that's what, the whole story about the original sin and being cast out of the Garden of Eden. I'm sure that there's, those kind of stories, they have many different levels, but I'm sure that one of the levels of that story is literally that feeling of once being one with the divine, and then, oh, it sucks that we're no longer one with the divine, now we have to be in the world, right? Okay. But we also have to remember that although the experience of the world is often challenging, it is the experience of the world that actually allows us to find the richness that we need and the depth of the experience that we need to evolve to the next level, right? So we wouldn't be able to deepen as beings unless we get thrown into the big hot soup and learn how to swim and so on in a good way.
In a good way.
And still maintaining our humanity and our love and our compassion for ourselves and for other people.
Yeah, we don't want that shell. We want that shell to be gelatinous rather than eggshell-like.
That's right. That's right. And, we want to overcome things without, or throwing ourselves under the bus,
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what a fascinating evening. We're about 5 minutes out, and it's been, I don't know about you, but I have certainly felt a certain amount of anxiety about reaching this day, reaching this moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's like I'm picking it up from the collective, because I know I've done that before. And I think, at the end of the day, after midnight PST, the whole world has managed to breathe a whole sigh of relief that nothing actually did happen.
Yeah, although, I think the anxiety, I've been feeling some of the anxiety in myself, and mostly it's productivity. It's like, I was supposed to write all of these things, I was supposed to do all of these things before this date.
Mm-hmm.
And then the date comes, and a lot of things that I wanted to do I haven't done yet, right? So there's been an anxiety that has to do with productivity almost to some degree, right?
Expectation and disappointment.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
absolutely.
You can forgive yourself. Listen, we're here. I think actually everybody in the chat room, everybody listening in the future and the past just needs to give themselves a pat on the back, because we've made it and we're still in one piece, and the planet hasn't been hit by an asteroid, hasn't been sliced up by one of Nibiru's moons, hasn't been hit by the galactic superwave gamma burst that is going to fry us all to pieces. It hasn't been thrown into the sun by an angry alien.
It's not here yet. Do you know what I mean? Like they've tried, they're not here yet.
And we haven't been globally warmed or globally frozen yet.
Or empty.
Yeah.
We will never know if things could have gone differently, because we only know the reality that we've lived. But who knows? Maybe we made a massive contribution as human beings, and maybe we have averted all of these horrible things that could have happened and haven't happened. So, we don't have all of the information to know how well we have done. But my sense is that we have done very well, and these have anyway, regardless of the light to dark agenda and so on. These, just from an energetic point of view, and with all the karma that people have been clearing, all of the karmic experiences that people have been having, it's just literally been a very intense experience for everybody. So I think that we have to be relieved and glad that we've actually got this far.
So, we've gotten this far. And this is the point where you now tell everybody how to find you, particularly how to buy and admire your beautiful jewellery that you make. Because, Katie comes on the show for free. I do the show for free. Everybody does the show for free. And we have to support ourselves because we have little cottages and places where we're going to have to live. And things are hard these days. So, Katie, monetize yourself for 5 minutes.
Okay, well, how I'm going to do this, I'm just going to tell people to go to my new website that is reclaimingthelight.com, okay? And on there, you will find links to all of my other websites and all of the things that I do. And in fact, on the left-hand side of the website, there are links to my YouTube page, there's links to my blog. I have more than one blog, one in which I write often and the other one's not so often. And then you will also find information about the healing sessions that I do. I do healing work, past life work. I do a lot of, removal of dark energy, including depossession, exorcism, all of that kind of stuff. And then I also make